Good morning, everybody. How we doing today? It's a Tuesday in the upper Midwest. Had a great weekend DJing, putting that love of jazz out there to the world for people to consume it in digestible little bites. And I get little comments from people that it's just, they like jazz when they hear me playing it. And I think that's been the focus of my channel, my Facebook groups, most of my oratory diatribes have been people who love jazz should try to share more of the lovable side of it and less of the acquired taste part. If every beer advocate was just advocating the most complex bitter beers and forgot about all the middle of the road stuff that people will enjoy, beer would have a much smaller audience than it does. And so much of the vinyl community, so much of the YouTube channels, it's just posting that rare, unaccessible stuff. And I've always been trying to kind of get people to say, you know what, this is actually, I like this. What is this? This is jazzy, what is it? I mean, no, it's jazz. This is what jazz has been most of its life. And so I'm just really thrilled with the response I'm getting to that. And I'm mixing it up with a lot of different things. I've actually had a few questions recently about DJing. And there's various approaches to DJing. And I'm not an expert on all approaches. I'm not a guy sitting up there with two copies of the same record, matching the beats so an MC can kick a rhyme. I'm not up there even scratching. I find scratching, especially in a kind of relaxed setting, can be very abrasive. I'm mostly curating good music. A good DJ can sense a room's vibe, its energy, know what time of day it is, what day of the week it is, what time of year it is. All those things can impact what you play, who you're playing for, and so curating the right song for the right setting. It's a bit like putting music to film. You want to match the atmosphere. And you can get a blue-ish track from any of the last 7 decades, which is what I play from the 50s through to the present. And it's about matching colors. And that's the best way I can describe what I do. I play from such a wide range of sounds, but I'll play 3 or 4 yellowish tone songs in a row that are kind of bright and shiny and major keys. And they can be from totally different eras, but the tempos will be similar, the colors, the atmosphere, the vibe will be similar. And so they'll actually all dovetail together seamlessly. And you can end up putting jazz with some modern electronic down-tempo, with a soul song, and with an alternative rock song, and they'll all fit together somehow. It takes a wide palette, first of all. Most DJs, by the time they get to be my age, 49, have hung up their DJ boots and aren't really doing the kind of things I'm doing. My residency at the Red Cow, Red Rabbit on Saturday and Sunday for brunch really allows for a broad palette to be played. If you're playing on a Friday night from 10 to 2 in the morning, you're playing for a young crowd, there's going to be dancing. One of the important things about dancing is matching tempos at that point, where you want to have the beats and tempos feel very matched up. And most dance beats are going to be, upper tempos. And it's the slower tempos that can be the really toughest ones to match sometimes when you get down to 60, 70 RPM, BPM. But I've never been too focused on the technical side of DJing, and I think one of the reasons why I've been successful is I've never gone to the club saying, here's a spotlight on me, look at me, listen to me. That was never my approach. I found most DJs to be obnoxious. Being a record collector for years, whenever I would go to the bar and listen to a DJ, more often than not I'd be like, oh man, Stevie Wonder in Germany, why are you mashing that? Please stop. Or you'd hear a song you really like that the guy would have sped up to the point where it sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks. It's like, oh man, you're ruining that song so you can match it to, oh, come on. And there's a lot of ego, a lot of, look at me, look how talented I am. I can, it didn't ever impress me. It most of the time was abrasive, and it takes someone really special, especially when you're just relaxing with a few friends having a drink, to impress you as a DJ in the sense of turntablism. And it's a different skill set. It's not one I've ever wanted to ascribe to. It's never been my interest at all. My interest is always playing the right song at the right time and reading a room and having this broad collection of music, which even when I started, I probably was near 8,000 records back in 2001, 7,000 records, which is still a lot. And I didn't even have a laptop in those days. I used to bring a book of CDs, which became 2 books of CDs, which became 4 books of CDs. I'm talking thick books like that, 4 of them. And that I would have for different sets, different nights. But the vinyl was always the mainstay of what I did. And as vinyl kind of fell out of favor with DJs from Tractor and Serato, I stayed with my vinyl because I'd spent and invested so much in vinyl. And I was never a computer guy anyway. So I didn't really just say, oh man, there's now a digital way to do it. That's got to be better. Because for me, sending an email in 2007 was still a little bit of a thing for me. I've never been much of a computer, and I've gotten much better. My YouTube channel has actually helped quite a lot. Posting on Facebook, I've embraced certain aspects, but there's still a lot of computer illiteracy in my veins. And during a gig, I've had my laptop start wanting to do this little loading thing, and it kind of freezes up. You have to restart it. My vinyl doesn't do that. Worst thing happening during a vinyl set is a needle breaks. Then you're kind of, but you hopefully have an extra needle with you. But vinyl's so reliable. And it also really added a sense of awe when people walked in. Even in the early 2000s, the vinyl age was over for 15, 20 years at that point. And so throughout 2005, 2010, 2015, up to the present, the vinyl's always had a bit of a awe factor when people walked in, like, oh, cool, look at this. A real DJ kind of thing. And it had such a cachet of cool that it was never even in my mind to ever go away from it. And my collection's only kept growing, my knowledge has only kept growing, my ability to read a room of people has only gotten more comprehensive. I've been playing 20 years now for people, done hundreds of weddings, hundreds of events, had numerous great residencies where I played at a bar sometimes 3 or 4 nights a week for years. We really start to build a following. Each night has its own little characteristics and vibe. And what you play on a Wednesday or a Thursday can't be the same as what you play on a Saturday. So there was always very different vibes to different nights. And we had an old hip-hop night on a Thursday. We had a soul night at Triggs on Friday. We had kind of a modern pop mixed with old school pop, Prince Michael, all the way kind of to the present stuff on Saturdays. Always mixing up different things, so there was a lot of range. And I grew up in metal and classic rock, grew into hip hop through the Beastie Boys and then Snoop and Dre. And so I always knew that kind of Snoop and that kind of era of West Coast had a real fun party vibe to it. Ding, ding, dong, ding, 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 dong, keep their heads ringing. It was always going to make people, yeah. Because you didn't really hear that stuff in the bar. Most clubs were very hesitant to play black music, aside from some Whitney Houston on the Muzak, But one of my favorite DJ jobs was I kind of usurped a gig from a house guy. He was a house guy playing house every Friday and Saturday. He was commissioned to play, I think it was 4 nights a week that he was supposed to be the entertainment. And he ended up giving me Wednesdays, and then I ended up taking, it was 3 nights a week. It was Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday at this place. And Friday they didn't have a DJ. And I ended up taking those nights from him just because the staff loved the diversity of what I was doing, the more sing-along nature of what I was doing. I wanted to kind of reach people. And I think that's always been kind of my focus point, is I'm looking around the room looking for energy, looking for people nodding their heads, tapping their foot. If they black folks, they'll hoot and holler. if they white folks, you gotta look a little more carefully to see if they get into what you're doing. And you might not even know until they walk out the other night going, oh, great job, man. You killed it. You was on point all night long. It's like, I would have never known. Y'all just sat there. Didn't do nothing to show me none of that. But all the same, you still killed them, and that's what matters. But, so my focus has always been on curating music. I never came to this as a guy saying, I'm going to be a great DJ. Listen to me, the DJ. It was all, let's listen to some great music together. If anything, the focus was on my collection, but it was on the music and the artists. And I wasn't the guy that was going to say, let's take Stevie Wonder and speed him way up or slow him way down. So I want to make it about me and what I'm doing. It's almost like, let's leave Superstition alone. That's good enough as it was. I ain't better than Stevie. I ain't going to touch what Stevie did. I'm going to play it as he played it. I'm going to work around what he did. And my job is to match something that fits tempo and mood-wise to that without messing what up he did. So it's about knowing a lot of music. So, again, DJing, there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. But my approach has been very much to make people sit back and every third or fourth song, half of the room is singing along. And most of my gigs, especially daytime gigs, you have a very wide range of people, especially age-wise. You have everything from senior citizens out having lunch, brunch, to the young set coming in with a hangover. And so to kind of win both sets over requires some diligence and some negotiation. And I think that's part of what a great DJ does, is he negotiates at all times with everything he plays for the people in the room. I think some of y'all are going to like this. Yeah, I thought so. So if you like this, you'll probably like this. But I don't want these people over here getting antsy and upset. So let me kind of meld that over to where they're at. And I've already earned your trust. Let me earn their trust real quick. And I'll play something I think that they're going to like. And like, oh yeah, I can see that they're digging that. Cool. And so now I won them. And that group in the corner, they haven't really shown me nothing. What do you think? Okay, look at that. Yeah, I think they're going to dig this. And so I'm slowly bringing who I can see, especially, into the vibe. And some days, some of the people there just aren't into the music. They just don't, they're just there to talk to their whoever. You know, you got to be really conscious of that even. It's like, oh, I need to be a little more background right now. I get that. So it's about the tempo of the room, the vibe of the room. If you have a lot of young people that are all hungover, you got to do something a little different. You know, you got to really kind of feel it out. But, so I think in a nutshell, I approach DJing from that mindset. I want to kind of occupy their headspace and give them something that's comfortable, feels appropriate for the time and the moment. And then once I establish the tempo and the mood, we'll slowly shift and meander around, but everything is going to seam together somehow. This might have been sampled by this. This might have been a direct descendant of this. This might have preceded that. This might have been that guy's side guy coming over here, and then you use jazz to kind of cement between things. There's times you're like, okay, I want to get out of this here. I don't want to go any further in that direction. I'll put a little Grant Green guitar on. The tempo I can find on a Grant Green record, mid-tempo, I'll put the up-tempo, slow tempo, and I'll find the tempo that's right. And then I'll kind of play that. And then you can slowly kind of bring the bass out of that and bring up the next thing you want to play, which could be in a wholly different direction. But that jazz was like a glue, a caulk, a seam between bricks. So you use jazz very much to kind of ease people from one place to the other, because so much of this music does have its roots in jazz and the blues. And so I think it takes, like I said, a broad knowledge, a collection, to be able to do what I'm doing. And I think you could give this another person the same crates of records, but without the comprehension of playing thousands of hours in front of people, knowing how to read people, knowing even someone's politics can influence what they want to hear. Like that guy's got a bald eagle all over him. He's probably going to like some Eagles. I'm not sure I really want to play the Eagles. And if there's one person in this room I might not worry about, it's that guy, because he's probably not going to stay long. So you kind of want to factor that side. And sometimes you even got to be aware of, okay, that guy's a little too drunk. There's a difference between getting that guy excited, having a good time, versus if I get that guy going, he might cause a problem. So you also have to be conscious of the energy of the room. There was a guy last Sunday that was there was a couple times I'm like, oh, I can't play this right now because I think he's going to be an issue. And he was already kind of being an issue. And he left at one point, they asked him to leave, he came back in. I had to take the record off that I was about to play because I'm like, that's the last thing I want him to hear. Because if he hears that, he's going to be like, oh, I love this song 25 years ago. And then now he's going to be ornery and it's my fault that he stayed. So you got to be real on top of things. It's like I said, there's many different skill sets to doing what I'm doing. And most DJs are focusing more on evenings, bars, dancing, clubs. And I've done that scene, you know, for white and black crowds. And I loved playing the old school R&B for the black community in Minneapolis. For almost 8 years I was doing that. It was really a lot of fun. And I would do it again if the setting was right. But I can only hear Cameo Word Up so many times. I played it last night on YouTube for a second. I'm like, man, I don't need to ever play that record ever again outside of playing it in the club where it needs to be played. And there's a lot of R&B tracks that I feel that way. A lot of Prince, a lot of Michael, a lot of James Brown. It's like, okay, I've heard these songs so many times. And unless the only time I want to hear that is if I know if I play this song right now, or actually it's going to make this place go, oh, yeah. And that, okay, then perfect, I'll play it. You know, there's a lot of songs that I consider cotton candy. And cotton candy can be really good once in a while, but you can't live on that shit. You can't play it every week, but once in a while you can drop it Staying Alive. Staying Alive. Oh, and if you use that appropriately and not just kill it every week, that song can have a great impact when you need it. And there's a lot of songs that are like that. There's a lot of one-hit wonders. There's a lot of songs that became too popular and got oversaturated where people didn't want to hear them anymore. You got to set those on the back burner for 2-3 years at least and not touch them. And then slowly you can say, okay, I bet you most of the people in this room haven't heard this song in at least 6 months. Let's play some John Legend All of Me right now. And they're like, oh, I know every word to this song and I haven't heard it in a year. This is fantastic. And they sing it. So it takes a lot of cleverness. It takes a lot of negotiating. And what I'm trying to do is win that confidence and embrace who's in the room. What I don't ever want to come off as is aloof or self-indulgent. And I think that's where most DJs go the most wrong, is they come off as self-indulgent by playing an hour of deep tracks that are so cool that you need to hear without ever embracing anybody in the room. No one knows any of this stuff. Your background music to them, and they're feeling disconnected because they don't feel you know what they know or like what they know. And you're almost making them feel like you think they're stupid. He thinks, I don't know nothing about music. He's just playing stuff that no one... They almost resent you being so distant and disconnected from what my group of people would like to hear. Worked with many DJs that were very self-indulgent, very aloof, and just like, I'm the DJ, let me tell you what you should hear. This is what I'm going to play. It's not really the place to be educating people. You can sprinkle that stuff in, and I do. And you can play as you build up your sets and come down at the end. You can sprinkle in kind of more deeper stuff in some of those places. And again, I'm using jazz as a glue. Jazz is something I'll play for interlude for 1.5 to 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on the setting, depending on the song. You can drop in Dave Brubeck Time Out, and just about the whole room will be like, oh, cool. I don't even know who this is, but I've always liked this song, because everyone always knows that song. If you've been into a bookstore in your life, you've probably heard Time Out, Take 5, you know. So that's very important to me. When I see an old couple walk in with their daughter and her boyfriend, I want the daughter and the boyfriend to walk out saying that was really fun, but I also want those older couple to be like, man, I can't believe you played Gordon Lightfoot. That was so cool. I can't believe you dropped in Jim Croce. And they might even surprise you. They may be like, oh, and I loved Massive Attack. When I was in college, I listened to Massive Attack every day and Portishead. And you never know. So you got to kind of cover those different angles. And you see Silver and Blue Hair walk in, chances are some Sinatra's going to kick him right. Like, ooh. You know what I mean? So Dean Martin, ain't that a kick? Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of trying to make them feel part of it. make them feel knowledgeable, make them feel connected to what I'm doing. If they like even half of what I'm playing a lot, they're going to trust me and embrace the other things I'm playing. And so that's one of the things I've gotten a lot from people is I've never really liked modern music. I'm an old guy, but the way you mix it in with the old stuff, it made me kind of recognize and appreciate it. And I've gotten the young people saying, I love that you play Juice WRLD and Mac Miller, and man, that old Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday stuff was haunting, you know? And so when you kind of put that stuff together and you make it not seem like it's light years apart, because it's not really. And there's many a song today by a Halsey that ain't a ton different from what a Peggy Lee would have done. It's vocal pop music that's doesn't matter how the instrumentations are made, the movements, the chord changes, the sounds, the shapes of sounds. I've often noticed how Ellington and Kim Basie, some of the swells and counter movements in those swing songs often sounds like some of the dubstep stuff where whoa, 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 whoa. There's times when swing music sounds exactly the same. I'm like, dang, it's the same concept, the same tempo, with these big, huge swells and counter movements and accents and crescendos and diminuendos. It's the same principles at work. And so it's about matching vibes and colors, yellows to yellows, greens to greens, reds to reds, blues to blues, purples to purples. And that's a bit of an objective thing, but I think that comes with experience and playing over and over and over again. You just start to really understand the color, the tempo, the tone of songs, the key they're in, minor and major, tempo, how horn driven. Horns tend to make things bright. Earth, Wind, and Fire, even at their most melancholy, has a lot of brightness with all that horn going on. Horns always add yellows and oranges to something, whereas a piano trio can be full of maroons and purples and blues and basics. Organ, guitar trios can be very full of melancholic sounds. And so you just gotta put that jazz record on and go, okay, I'm listening to Purity Ring. It's got a nice dark, dense melancholy to it. Maybe some Jimmy Smith at that same tempo. Whoa, oh, there it is. Let's put that in there. You throw that on for 2 minutes, but that James Brown goes right next to that Jimmy Smith with a little Ray Charles, and then we'll go from Ray Charles into Al Green, and then from Al we can do, you know, I mean, it's like that. And you just feel the connections, and you see the connections and the bridges across as you play. And so much of it is just obvious, like, oh, yep, that's ready to go now. And then reggae for me is one of the great distillers. I can go from anywhere in a set at any point and go, okay, I went as far down that road as I want to go. I feel I'm at a bit of a dead end here. I don't want this brightness or this tempo to be any more long. I need to change. How can I get out of this? Then I can play reggae. And you drop a great reggae track in, and that reggae will kind of wash everybody's palate like a piece of cheese at a wine tasting. Everyone's like, I don't even remember what we heard before, but this Bob Marley is great. You know, and the Could You Be Loved, or Three Little Birds Outside My Doorstep, singing sweet songs, and you can really start again from anywhere from that. You can go back to the blues, you can go back to some jazz, some Latin music. It just really is a great glue, or a snake, as it were, from Snakes and Ladders. You're climbing up on these ladders, and then you need that snake to get you back to the bottom so you can go up a different set of ladders. And so reggae is a great way to intersect between things, and jazz is kind of the pace that I put between a lot of other things. And generally jazz fits into my set the first 90 minutes. I'll play a dozen jazz songs in between other things, and then I'll probably have to do like a 90-minute, 2-hour part where it's pretty much more modern, more up-tempo. I'll still throw some, you know, Peggy Lee Fever, Julie London, Cry Me a River, songs that have real pop culture sensibility, stuff from Tarantino films, always connects. You can play Statler Brothers, Counting Flowers on the Wall, and half the room is like, oh, I love this, I don't know why. But yeah, I remember this song. And, you know, those films have a power to them that connects people with the music. So it's about finding those pop culture pieces, songs that as many people know as possible. If you need to use Bruno Mars or Adele to kind of get Sam Smith, you bring everybody in the room in for those songs. everybody's like, oh yeah, I remember this song, Stay With Me, and they're singing along to Ed Sheeran. So you're like, okay, I got everybody on my page right now. So now where do I go from here? So it's important to have those Michael Jackson, those Princes, those songs that everybody's going to sing along to. And Usher's a great guy that I play a lot of. I probably play Usher at least 2 or 3 times a day. He's got so many great songs, you know, and songs that were just ubiquitous hits. You can put those in the right place. And again, you can't kill them. You have to be careful how you just distribute those things. So it's very much about experience. Having a wide, most kids who are DJing are, you know, under 30 years old. So their knowledge base is going to be much more narrow than a guy like me who's been collecting for as long as I have. Going on 30 years, I've been collecting records and DJing for 20. And so I've just seen a lot of miles and done a lot of different spaces and rooms and had to win a lot of people over. And I'm not the guy that's going to dress in a suit and impress you with my appearance. That's just not how I roll. I ain't comfortable and I don't wear dress shoes. I'm not going to put a tie on. I'm going to show up in a jersey or a t-shirt, but I'm going to kill you. You know what I mean? I'm going to kill you. I want to make sure you got every dollar you spent on me is going to be worthwhile. And everyone's going to be like, man, that was great. And you're going to forget about what I'm wearing real quick because I'm playing the right stuff. And that's kind of the entire point of what I do. And so there's probably a lot of DJs that watch me and go, this guy's not that great at DJ. I don't even think why people, because people love the music. And they aren't there to see me necessarily. They're there to hear good music with me. Focus on the music, and it always should be. And you got to be pretty famous for me to go to a restaurant, sit down, and be thinking about you. For the most part, if it's about you too much, you're probably going to annoy me. And I think that's just part of how my DJing shaped up the way it did, is I didn't want to be annoyed by a DJ, and I wasn't going to be that DJ that was annoying. So I'm going to wrap that up. I do got the glass now on my cabinets, the doors that they lock. You can kind of see them. I got a little snippet video. I'm going to put it at the beginning or the end of this video, I'm not sure. But it's nice to see them locked and safe, my jazz records. 1 second. So again, it's about playing from 7 decades of music and playing the right stuff. And the stuff that seems to have staying power. You start to recognize in the present even that, okay, this is going to be very much a flash in the pan, but that's got some substance. Adele will be around for a long time, even if she never makes another record. Amy Winehouse, her one record has a staying power that still transcends. And talking about someone that's got a lot of jazz and Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald in her, you know, so you can really segue between a lot of these artists so effortlessly. And the time frame doesn't really matter. And if you do it right, you'll win over people in the room, and you'll, by default, educate them on the other half of the stuff that they don't know, but they are somewhat familiar with, or they've seen, even the jazz. People have subconsciously seen and heard jazz in movies and television their whole life. And jazz is used to set an urban chic setting, a fancy restaurant setting, a romantic encounter setting, a night in the park with the bench and the lamp setting. Jazz is used in film and television all the time. That urban chic, especially Sex and the City, had a lot of jazz sprinkled in, and it's almost subliminal. You almost don't even recognize it, but yet it's still kind of informing us of the role jazz plays. And so if you watched a Sex and the City, if you watched even a Twin Peaks, there's so many examples. When I play that jazz in a similar setting for you at brunch on a Sunday afternoon with a glass of Chardonnay in your hand, you're not thinking, oh, I don't like jazz, I don't know this song. You're thinking, I'm feeling kind of Carrie Bradshaw right now, and I don't even know why. Boy, do I feel posh. Darling, where's my monocle? See what I'm saying? Where's my cigarette holder? I feel rather fantastic. Audrey Hepburn is overcoming me right now. That's it. You embalm them in the soothing sounds of jazz. And it makes them feel cool and hip, because so much of pop culture and media and television and movies, and it's omnipresent. So even people who have never listened to jazz in their life have heard so much jazz. And if you put the right jazz into their ear, Not some screeching, honking nonsense. Not some, my ears are bleeding, but how cool am I because I can sit through this. But that same melancholy that appears in film, if you put that into their life, it's going to enrich them. They're going to find a value in it, and they're actually going to be like, man, thank you for Carrie Bradshawing me today. I really enjoyed sitting here with my girls. And boy, do we feel posh and superior because you really just put my Cartier watch on speed dial. I feel good. I feel slick. I feel cool. I feel urban. Hip. I feel a shade of New York in me right now. And that's part of the overcast, I think, of jazz's shadow is New York. And New York's always cool. New York's always hip. So if you can get the vibe of New York without paying $5,000 a month for a studio apartment, I'm doing my job. I'm giving you some New York, people. I'm slicing that into your ear. A little style and character and pizzazz and flavor that you would get in New York in a lot of places, and Hollywood and television has given you consistently throughout your life. So jazz isn't as uncomfortable and as unfamiliar as we would think. It would seem, why are you being self-indulgent in playing jazz? I'm not being self-indulgent in playing jazz. I'm giving them a color and an atmosphere and a mood that actually is very relatable to almost everybody. Feels kind of swanky, doesn't it? See? You don't know that maybe, but you kind of maybe do know that. And the Brubeck song is a great example. That's going to bring more of the room in than you would think. It's such an omnipresent song. Like, even people who don't know are like, oh, I remember that. I've heard it. You know, what is this? You see the phones go up here and they Shazamming it, trying to figure out what you're playing. They used to come and ask you, but Shazam put an end to that. People rarely come up and ask a DJ what they're playing anymore. You know, I still get it once in a while because people like the vinyl, they want to see the vinyl. But the Shazam put an end to most of those questions. People are just like, oh. And you see that, and you look for that, because you want to have that. You want to have that moment where you know you're playing a song that they like or remember, but can't really remember where or why. And so it's got a power to them, and they want to put a finger on it. They go, what's this from? Where do I know this? How? I'm that way sometimes when I see an actor in a film. I'm like, oh man, I know that face. Where do I know him from? And because actors can present so differently their appearance, sometimes it takes me a while to place, oh yeah, he was that character in that. Yeah, that's it. Because they can look pretty different from one role to the next. But I always got to figure that out. So I'll be able to sit there on my phone during a movie going, oh yeah, he was in that. Sure. And music's the same way. Music's very much a memory thing, a sensory thing. And it makes sense for my sets to start with blues and greens and some pinks and purples, a little mauve. And we'll work our way towards a little bit of red and burgundy, some thick, dense, lovey, you know what I mean, production. And then we get to some bright yellows and oranges that have a kind of a flurry of sound and brightness and high register and horns, and it'll kind of bring it slowly back down. It's got to have that crescendo. It's got to build towards a climax. Because if you ain't building towards a climax, what are you doing? It can't just be, we're hitting it from the get, boom, the whole time, and we ain't going to leave there, because your audience is going to be exhausted with that. If you play the same music for 4 hours, they're all gonna be like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm sick of reggae, I'm sick of house, I'm sick of techno, I'm sick of whatever you're playing for 4 hours. Even pop music, a lot of those club DJs end up playing the same couple songs 2 times a night, early and late, because people want those same hits. And boy, I'm done with those days, I really am. So DJing for me is very much a science, but it's also very much an art form. And like I said, it's just a negotiation, and it's trying to embrace people, make them feel contemporaries of mine, not students of mine. I want them to feel like I like the same thing you do. I figured you probably like this. If you like this, I'm guessing you like these 3 songs. Now hold on while I put you on hold, because I gotta go bring those 4 people over there to the room too, because they're gonna probably dig this. And then I reel them in. And now they both are kind of going, so I like this guy, he plays some good stuff. Oh, I like him too, he plays some good stuff. They might like totally different things. And then I'll play something that they all like. Everybody likes that Sam Smith song, you know what I mean? Something like that. And then you kind of go back down a different road. And you're trying to always bring in, and you're seeing people walk in. And what I don't ever want to be is a guy playing a brunch set that has a certain set of people walking out unhappy or wishing there wasn't a DJ, or even worse, some people's instinct is when they see a DJ, they turn around and walk out. And if I'm in the middle of playing something that's on the edges of what a brunch should be, I run the risk of those people walking in and being, oh, Tupac, shit, I'm leaving. Not for me right now, you know. And so I'm very cognizant even watching people walk up. And there's times where I see a couple of blue hairs at the door, and I'm like, oh, and I'll start fading that song out and putting my next song on, or quickly I usually have 3 or 4 songs queued with the 2, you know, CD digital options, the 2 record options. I usually have choices on my shit, but sometimes I'm just like, oh man, I can't play this right now with them walking in. I want them to be comfortable. They need some Roy Orbison. Boom. Let me give them that. The right song, the right time. And if the right old couple walks in and you playing some old Peggy Lee, some Julie London, they might just be like, cool. I have a bunch of vinyl at home. I can't believe you're playing Julie London on vinyl. And I get old people taking photos of my stuff. Not me, my stuff. And I also get a lot of people with young kids showing their kids the records and stuff and how it works. And I must have had at least 3 dozen kids over the last 5 years come behind my DJ booth, put on the headphones, and pretend they're DJing. So mom and dad take a picture of the little kid with the DJ. And it makes the parents thrilled. It makes the kid have a great memory. And I think even the restaurant management and staff see me doing that kind of embracing the people. And I think it has a value even for how they see what I'm doing. I'm embracing people. So it's very much a negotiation. It's very much just making people feel like they're not being ignored, not being fed. No one should walk out of there and be like, man, you didn't play anything I liked. There's once in a while you get into a place where I got the whole bar part just going. And the servers are kind of going, the bartenders are going, and we're at a real place where, man, we kicking this right now, and they all feeling it. People are starting to dance, like it's, and you might end up getting stuck there for 45 minutes to an hour, just because you're like, okay, I can drop 5-6 songs right here and keep these guys going for a bit. And they're gonna hoot and they're gonna holler, they're gonna create energy, and at some point you're gonna slowly start losing some of the people in the restaurant dining side who maybe aren't really set there for that type of thing. So again, you gotta watch how long you go down a certain road. If the dining room says someone complained it's too loud in there, it means I'm probably playing the wrong music for too long. So, and sometimes you only have a young set. If it's a young set and there's people giving you energy, you kind of can stay there if that's what you got in the bar. And that's the cool thing about the brunch thing, is you never know from week to week who's going to be there, what time it's going to get busy, what's the color going to have to be to start to rise to and then to descend to. So in a nutshell, that's how I DJ. It's hard to kind of explain. I think I kind of got it for you. Again, every song has a numerical quantity in my brain of how popular it is to people, and that can change via race and age set, how big a hit it was, so how omnipresent people are going to know it. The tempo goes up as the set goes on. The volume will slowly increase as the set goes on. The popularity of songs will increase as the set's going on. So that tempo, volume, and popularity all increasing was all increasing the energy in the room. And meanwhile, people are also getting drunker. And so as they get drunker, the songs get brighter, faster, more familiar, and they're more likely to start singing along and really go, oh, this guy's great, I love him after all. And that's and it just takes a long time to be able to, in your head, have thousands of songs that you know, okay, this is a 5. This here's an 8. With this group, that song's not an 8 no more, it's a 10. You know, TLC, Waterfalls, is a 10 with a certain age group. Older folks ain't going to give a shit. Younger folks are going to be to the point where they don't really remember that. But if you have a room full of 30 and 40-year-olds, they're going to give you some noise. So there's a lot of variables, and a lot of it just comes from years of playing. I was going to cover some of my recent arrivals in my jazz sets here that I picked up in the mail recently, but this episode I think has gone long enough. So we're gonna move on today. I think we're over 30 minutes, 40 minutes probably already. I can't see because of the glare right now. But I hope you all appreciate that, enjoy that. I think it's interesting stuff. It's taken me years to get where I'm at. I couldn't have done what I'm doing now years ago. It takes a lot of learning, a lot of almost empathy. It's empathy for people. You want people to have a good time. And I want to bring people in, and I want to kind of win you over. What can I do to do that? What can I play that's going to make you go, oh, put a smile on your face? If I see a bunch of white folks singing along, that's as good as y'all dancing. You know what I mean? That's even servers. That's another thing you have to be careful about is you can't just play for the staff and you can't just play for the patrons. You need to make the staff involved and have a good time and enjoy what you're doing. But you also can't let the staff make you waver from playing for the patrons because you can't just play for the staff. Your staff's going to mostly be late teens, early 20s, and you can't just sit there playing for them all night because even though they might want that, it's not the right thing for the patrons in the restaurant. So you have to kind of let them know, like, hey, I'll take care of you guys, but I got to take care of them. That's my primary. So it's, like I said, it's a constant negotiation. It's a constant working out the details and trying to make as many people walk out with a smile on their face. And honestly, my tip jar is often fairly reflective of how good a job I did. And the problem is, the more people you have in the room, actually the easier it is to get that energy going and to create some energy and some steam that will connect, and then I can connect with everyone because everyone will feel like buzz. But when the stage is just kind of sort of busy and there's never really a full rush of people, or it's when it's not that busy, especially, that's the most difficult times to play in terms of getting people excited, because it just really takes some real specifics, and there's not enough energy in the room to start converting your whole room over. That mob mentality, that at a revival meeting. But you get enough people in that room and you start converting them, and they start converting each other, and the energy starts, that's when everybody walks out and puts a 5 in your jar. And again, some of that's not even based on how you're playing, it's based on how many people are in the room. And the more people you get, the easier it is to get that energy going. So then in a 40-minute nutshell, that's how I approach DJing. It's how I'm bringing jazz to the world and making people go, man, I love this jazz music you're playing. What is it? I'm like, well, that was Grant Green. That was Sal Salvador. And that was Bill Evans. That was Wes Montgomery. That was Jimmy Smith. And you give them that stuff that's connected to the rest of music. Which, again, the Pharoah Saunders, late John Coltrane, that's not really connected to anything. Maybe some psychedelic avant-garde rock, but it's not something that the average person is going to want to consume, especially not at brunch with a mimosa, a hangover, and a little bit of hash brown on their chin. You gotta hit the right notes for that. Y'all be safe. Have a great day. Check out my merch store in the credits below. Grab a t-shirt, grab a hoodie, grab a coffee mug. Thank you to all of my Patreon people. If you want to support the channel, you can throw $1, $3, $5 at the channel, at the Patreon page. And also, the podcast is up. It's on Spotify. We're working on the Apple. We're working on the Google. Those should be up in the next few days, I think. And also, one thing I want to know, guys, is how much podcast material do you guys want? Do you want me just to barrage it full of podcast episodes from the past? Or should I add 1 or 2 episodes a week so people can stay caught up? What's a good number in terms of podcasts being added to the Podbean per week? I don't know. I've never really been a podcaster. So how much you guys want? Let me know. Because I have a lot of, obviously, YouTube episodes that I can download and switch to MP3 and put on the podcast. There's a lot of great episodes where I think the audio will be just as powerful as the visual, and I can start doing more of that stuff, but I still need to figure out how much people want. I don't want to overwhelm people, and then it becomes undigestible, I think. So feedback on that. Y'all be safe. Have a great day. Peace.